When Papers, Please was released back in 2013, I think it was the first time that I remember actually feeling a game narrative click into place with its use of a mechanic. Many people laud it as a great example of games as art, which was quite important back then as it paved the way for the normalization of that idea. And all of this time later, having worked in retail now for over a decade, there's more to Papers, Please that I appreciate. It's really interesting because on paper, it would not seem that the game has all that much to say, given its more work simulator-like nature. In Papers, Please, you play as a border checkpoint inspector and are tasked with checking people's passports and other ID or travel-related documents to determine whether or not they should be allowed or denied entry into the country. Glory to Arstotzka. You get a list of rules, and if anything violates those rules or there are any discrepancies in the information, then you can deny them. Otherwise, you let them in. It's very mundane, but matches any other work simulator like Euro Truck or 2 Point Hospital. But I think in contrast to those games, Papers, Please adds elements of humanity that elevate it above a mere sim. As the days go by and papers are checked, mysterious figures from an organization named EZIC begin to crop up, alongside more mundane interactions with random people. Through the simple mechanic of denying and approving papers, the game poses questions about how much of your humanity you're willing to engage with while under your own oppression. The Tyranny of Rules. Probably good. Right. What? Not matching photo? Oh, god damn it. I'm hoping I'm not the only one else out there that feels this way, but one of the first things that came back to me replaying this game was a sense of dread. What happens initially is that you check people's papers and are all like, yeah, sweet, everything checks out, blammo, approved. Then, just as you're readying yourself for the next person, this happens and absolutely crushes any sense of confidence you may have had. Over time, this happened enough to me that I began flinching in preparation for the citation, even if I got it right. To me, there is a palpable oppression to Papers, Please in its mechanical foundation. For example, the perspective of the game gives you this one screen for the entirety of your playtime, making this booth feel more like a prison than a workplace. Even at day's end, when the shift is over, you are treated to a more or less blank screen, as if the life of the inspector is meaningless outside of the work that he does. Keep in mind, none of this is expressed by anything other than UI, a simply beautiful and elegant use of a uniquely video game thing. Additionally, other games use little sound cues and animations to give you a sense of accomplishment. Take the flagpole in Mario, or the battle winds of Final Fantasy. They're designed to make you feel good about doing the thing the game wants you to do. That same treatment is used in reverse in Papers, Please. No animation or sound effect for wins, but you can damn well expect them when you fail. The world of Papers, Please, after all, is a dystopia, and so it prioritizes making you feel your failures. The rules start off quite simply. Check for citizens only. Over time, though, due to things completely outside of your control, more and more requirements are added, and eventually you are just buried by paperwork. Not only are your failures amplified, the external pressure of rules and regulations increasingly compound on your mind. Having worked in retail for as long as I have now, coming back to Papers, Please, I can't help but see similarities in its progression and how things have been in the work that I do. I have a fairly simple job. You take a box that has some stuff in it, open up the box, and put that stuff onto a shelf. Do this for 8 hours. It's a fairly zen thing. And very similarly to the game, you don't really get anything for doing it right. When you do things wrong, someone's going to tell you about it. And it's those moments that will stick in your mind much more than the 99% of times that you did it successfully. But also, I found that over time, the job has been made much more complicated and thus less free. I've worked in the same job, at the same place, for like 13 years now, and so have experienced plenty of changes in management that will always impose little rules that you'll have to deal with. Every year, it seems like my department needs to do more. Oh god. Alright, okay, we're doing this.
Hey, Tomo, mate, guess what? Filling rates have increased. And instead of working when the store is closed, now you have to keep that fill rate while being bothered by and working around customers.
Excellent.
Look, I know you'd appreciate that. You also need to scan overs now. Oh, and
Wait,
since
what'd
we
you say?
arbitrarily want this done first, your entire team has to start their shift working in that one aisle.
Well, that sounds incredibly efficient.
Yeah, I know. Look, it is super efficient. Oh, and speaking of start times, make sure you start exactly on time or your entire team is fired. All right?
Wait, do I have to start exactly on time?
Did we mention that your breaks have been cut? Oh, and you know how some of your crew speak to each other in like their, native languages? You need them to stop doing that.
That sounds a
You know
little
what?
racist.
Just don't talk to each other in general, okay? Sound good?
One question. Are we going to have any extra time, manpower, or anything like that to, get all this stuff done?
No, obviously you won't be getting any extra staff or time to do any of this. Yeah, look, I know it sucks, but we're just gonna have to do more with less. But hey, look, I'm a nice guy. I got you and your team this. It's a really expensive VR headset.
For games?
What's that? Games? No. We have this cool idea, right? We're gonna use this expensive new technology to train you.
That doesn't make... Look, I know you have a thing. Just roll me over.
That's right.
This, all
Why watch a video or be shown how to do something on the shop floor in like 10 seconds as a group when we can watch said video and simulate the shop floor in VR? And look, we all know around here, it's the immersion that you workers are really crying out for.
Yes, the immersion.
We all good, right? I thought so. Listen, you guys are the best. I love all of you, all right? We'll see you later, champ.
Yes, sir. I think it's time for some beers. Alright, let's be real here, okay? At least in my experience, most managers are way more depressed than that, but anywho, before we get back to the video proper, since I shared a maybe true, maybe not, little glimpse into just some of the ways that my work has gone pear-shaped, I was hoping to leverage this medium of internet video and ask if you would be so kind, dear viewer, as to leave a horror story of your own in the comments. As a fellow worker, it would delight me to share in some of your misery, because at least it'll make this wonderful world of exploitation feel slightly less lonely. Anyway, to get back to Papers, Please, over time, all of these rules pile on top of each other and turn a simple job into something absolutely incomprehensible. The little wins you gain finding efficient ways to do things get thwarted in some way or another, and everything just adds to an oppression that makes you question if any of this is worth it. The problem is you can't escape. You have a family to feed. And this is the progression of Papers, Please. The game traps you into essentially one screen, gives you a fairly simple task to begin with, but with external events impose more and more on you until your desk is buried with paperwork and other such distractions. The clock and thus your survival constantly ticking down, day after day, the rules and the format applying increasing pressure until something gives. The only way to survive in this environment is to shut yourself off. Dehumanization. To be a good worker is to be a good cog in the machine, to form the spike of the boot that rests on your back. Unfortunately, being part of the boot means that you'll be applying pressure to others. In Papers, Please, going along with the rules, you begin to do some seriously questionable things, like scanning people's naked bodies, which is an incredible breach of their privacy. This additional rule comes about due to a terrorist attack, and so naturally the government ignores the privacy of people in order to protect itself. The game itself doesn't make any big deal out of this newfound power you wield. It is simply a thing that happens, and it is up to you whether or not breaching their privacy gives you any pause for thought. In order to survive, the game relies on you not breaking any rules, not making any mistakes, and processing as many people as possible. What this means is that as a player, the puzzle that needs to be solved is one of ignoring all of the morality stuff, i.e. ignoring the humanity of the people you are serving and just finding discrepancies in their paperwork. I find this most pronounced in really subtle mechanics. Often, someone will just not present a document. Now, to be a good person, you could point out the discrepancy, to which often they will provide the missing document. Or you could be a cold, ruthless machine and just blammo! See you later, thank you for the $5, next! Further, there are a bunch of time-consuming checks that hamper your ability to earn dollary dues. And so I found myself completely ignoring them, like checking for name changes or identification stuff, or interestingly, weight changes. And instead of scanning or fingerprinting to verify that person's claims, just boom, denied. The game's incentive structure is designed to make you dehumanize people, to ignore everything about them and pounce on tiny inconsistencies with no regard for what is true or the plight of the person. The end result of that is this screen here, where at the end of the day, the fruits of your robotic labor are tallied up and you get an arithmetic equation for your life. Your family is represented only by the number they cost you to keep alive and whatever stats they may have, like if they're hungry or they're cold. People give Papers, Please some flack for the family dynamic being so muted, but for me, it is a beautiful illustration of the dehumanization of this kind of work and how people in poverty have to view others, either as a source of income or as expenses. One other thing too, which is amazing, is that in addition to your family just being some numbers, most players point out that your family don't need food or heat every day, so to min-max things out further, it is in your best interest to keep them cold and hungry about every second day or so to save cash. This feels super easy to do because again, they're represented purely by numbers anyway. The game is all about dehumanizing everyone else, but by doing so, we must ask ourselves what it makes us to treat people this way. It turns us into robots. We're not technically monsters. We don't want anyone to die or to suffer, but the chief concern is following protocol. Adhere to the rules and don't die. Do that and you will be an excellent cog in the machine of the state. Following through with this should net you ending 20, in which the inspector is found to be an alright dude and everything is all good, bro. Glory to Arstotzka. Nothing has changed. The state just allows you to keep doing your job, and to further drive that point home, this ending is the only one that unlocks anything at all, and it unlocks Endless Mode. The one mode where all of this humanity mumbo-jumbo stuff is stripped away, and you can just focus on checking papers forever like a good machine. In order to fold you into the system, the bureaucracy has to break your humanity, and your reward for taking that knife to the heart is a world where there is nothing but the paper and the rules. Twisting the knife. There is a wrinkle to this though, because the game does try in a couple of ways to sway you from this path. Of course, there is Ezek, which are a revolutionary outfit that want to overthrow the government. And additionally, there's Georgie. And it's Georgie that was that first thing that ever happened to me where I felt a narrative click into place because of a game mechanic. And I'll describe the progression and hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about. So Georgie is a character that shows up and just tries to waltz in. He does not have a passport, so naturally, he gets denied. Unlike everyone else in Papers, Please, he is not only non-fussed about this, he gives an air of confidence that goes against the harsh times implied by the setting. The next time he shows up, he gives you this, and it's just so good. Like, are you kidding me, Georgie? This thing looks like it was made out of crayon. Denied! He of course maintains his chipper attitude and does indeed come back, each time with more convincing papers until on day 11, he has correct documents. Now, this is an interesting little moment because as the player, you know he is a fraudster, but the rules tell you that he is good to go in. If you are trying to be the good soldier, is this not just really galling to have someone flaunt the rules that you must meticulously abide by and be powerless to stop them? And of course, you can reject him here. But not only does the game give you one of those pesky citations, but he still comes back, and by the end of the game you find out that he's landed such a good score that he offers to help you out. So all of this time, you've just been scraping by, starving your family, and for what? Georgie seems to be doing so much better, and he's breaking the rules. Even when you're winning, you're losing. Just as you become acclimated to the knife inside of you, someone like Georgie comes along and just twists it. Can we break free? Okay, so there are 3 proper endings to Papers, Please. 18, 19, and 20. If ending 20 has you fold into the system, then endings 18 and 19 are about fleeing it and breaking it, respectively. If you follow Ezek's plans and let a few spies in here, maybe murder a dude there, then a group comes along on the final day and destroys the checkpoint, freeing the inspector from his shackles. Your reward for helping them out is a new apartment. Yay! But also a promotion? At the very least, a different job in the form of being an agent. Then we are graced with this screen. Glory to the new Arstotzka, which is interestingly similar to the old one for some reason. The other ending has you follow Georgie's lead, being the rebel he is. He gives you the contact to forge passports, and so all you have to do is make it through the next few days, confiscate as many Obristani passports as you can, and stump up enough cash to cover you and your entire family. This ending is quite poignant in that it puts you directly in the shoes of those standing outside of your checkpoint. There is a palpable sense that things here are the same as where you were fleeing, and purposefully, the game slows down and forces you to wait between each kathunk in the dark, with you wondering whether or not the person on the other side will let you through. Thankfully, everything checks out, and you are greeted with this. Yet again, a very similar sort of end screen to the other two, but with a bit of a branding change. Perhaps Obristan isn't the greener pasture we might have thought. This is primarily where my personal experience has changed how I look at this game, because through the lens of a long-time worker, the path of Ezek sure ends up feeling like a climb through management, or perhaps jumping ship to one of those tech disruptors out there. And on a quick aside, thanks Uber and Facebook, I appreciate all of that moving fast and breaking things you're all doing, really helping us workers out, thanks for that. On the other hand, Georgie feels a bit more like unemployment, or at least quitting and being in a bit of a limbo before you land that next gig. And ending 20 is basically where I am now, diligently working within the rules forever and ever. Often we think of endings in terms of good or bad, and I've seen some discussions questioning which of these 3 proper endings is the good one, and I think framing things that way misses the point. The game itself is marketed as a dystopian document thriller, and to me, dystopias are at their best when there are no good endings. These 3 endings aren't about representing different moral stances, they point out that no, you cannot break free. It is just the flavor, the brand of your subjugation that you choose. Ending 20 breaks down your humanity and makes you a robot. Siding with Ezek gets you more power, but obtaining it turns you into a monster. And though the wall is broken, the ending heavily implies that everything is basically the same. In ending 18, you perhaps maintain your humanity, but you relinquish the little power you do have to be completely at the whims of others. So I guess I just Roblox myself then? Yeah, the game is pretty gosh darn bleak, but here's the thing. What people love this game for is not the rules, it's the moral decisions that you make. It's the key difference between a game like this and a game like 2 Point Hospital or other such sims. Those games attempt to make the work fun. Papers, Please though, still fun in its own sort of way, glorifies the negatives rather than amping up the positives. And that makes the moral decisions a tiny sliver of positivity that comes out even more pronounced. Remember when I talked about the day end screen and how they dehumanized your family and make them an equation? If you were paying careful attention, you might have noticed that on the side, there are these circles, and they are placeholders for these tokens or coins. They are a useless currency. What you get them for, though, is engaging with the humanity of others. You don't get them as a result of high scores or things more gamey. They usually come by paying attention not to the rules, but to the people coming along. You can point out the discrepancy in this person's paperwork, but allow them in anyway, doing a little bit of good, but making things harder for yourself. I think this is much more important than just the choice itself, because there are only two things that transcend this work screen. None of the guff, like these cards for a brothel or this fancy watch, make it. It's just the money and the tokens that you take home with you. The money is super nebulous and gets rolled in with the rest of the arithmetic and therefore fades away. But on the left here, the tokens, once they've been obtained, they stay with you forever. The first is a mother. The second, a husband and wife. The third is a fraudster. The fourth, a businessman in need of engineers. The fifth is a man who tests your integrity. The sixth, someone in need of compassion. And seventh is someone on a quest for vengeance. Helping these people is not always about a matter of doing good, but it's also about doing bad, because that is what it is to be human. A lot of fiction, especially video games, reward excellence, striving to do better.
Well, they say repetition is the key to mastery, Prince said. Now here, I'll send you on your way.
Doing incredible feats of skill.
Watch out there, friend.
Or displaying galaxy brain intelligence. But Papers, Please, perhaps because of the dystopian setting, rewards just merely being human. In the grim dystopia of being poor and toiling away under an oppressive system, there will be moments of human interaction that transcend the drudgery. And it may not improve your situation, but on occasion, breaking the rules and engaging with your fellow human will be the only thing of true, lasting value that you'll find. Both in Papers, Please and in our own lives as workers, we may lack the power to break free of systems that aim to dehumanize us, but in such systems, finding ways to engage with humanity is perhaps the truest form of rebellion.